I had this beautiful PowerPoint presentation that I almost didn't make it, but just in time, look at God. I am a licensed professional therapist. I have worked for 16 years in Shelby County Schools in the alternative setting. I've been in private practice for the last 4 years. I've worked at Lakeside, so I've seen pretty much all of mental health behaviors that can exist. So when people come to me in therapy, one of the first things I'll say, this is not religious counseling. This is not spiritual counseling. I'm glad you said that, Charles, that we grew up in church. And one of the reasons why I say that is because, you know what? Church folks love to pray. Church folks love to come to the altar. And we love to get the touch. But you know what we don't like? We don't like to do the work. And so I let people know in first session, this is going to be some work. This is going to be some work. And so part of releasing the stigma of mental health is understanding first, it's going to require something from you. All right. Here we go. You go to the next slide. Here's our first exercise. I want you to pair up. I understand that this is COVID. If you hadn't washed your hands, you don't have to. But if you could, I want partner A and partner B to get together. Partner A, you will close your fist. Partner B, you have 10 seconds to get this person's fist open, okay? Starting now. 1. 3, 2, 1. Did anyone get the fist open? I know y'all just, he ain't touched. Wow. Here's the interesting thing. Did anyone say, hey, would you open your fist? One person? You could have used your words. You could have used your mouth. You could have just asked. Here's the beautiful thing about that. We tend not to ask for things. We tend not to let people know what we really want, because if we expose those things, man, something wrong with me. So the people that come down here to the altar, they don't really tell you what's going on. Yeah, I'm sad, I lost my job. We can do those things easily. Nobody's gonna come down here and tell you I'm a pedophile. No one's going to come down here and tell you I'm wrestling, I'm struggling with these hallucinations. We don't talk about that, right? You go to the next slide. So let's figure it out. You are here. You know how you go to the mall? The sign says you are here. Stigma, a mental or physical mark that is characteristic of a defect or a disease. Why is that important? If I feel that something is wrong with me, I'm defective, I feel ostracized. And I don't want you to know there's something wrong with me. Let me say this. You can raise your hand if you want, but you don't really have to. I already know the answer. Raise your hand if you've ever suffered from a mental illness. Okay. Most people didn't raise their hand, because we don't think mental illness, well, like the judge said, when we think of mental illness, we may think of retardation, I'm developmentally slow. But if you go to any Kroger, I can just ask the room, has anybody in here ever been depressed? Anybody ever here been anxious? Anyone in here ever suffered from grief for a sustained amount of time? We all have, right? But we don't want to be isolated as defective. And so I don't keep telling you there's something bothering me. There's a shelf life on my grief. Go to the next slide. So we're going to get there by releasing this stigma of mental health. We're going to explore some myths. We're going to confess, confront, and conquer. We're going to explore the work, and then we're going to commit to the work. You can go to the next slide. So how do we do that? Some common myths about therapy. You let me know which one resonates with you. Black people don't do therapy. Church folks shouldn't have problems. Therapy is for crazy folks. Man, therapy is too expensive. I won't be accepted. That's white folks stuff. We pray about it. We cast our cares upon him. We don't be anxious for nothing. I might be crazy, but I ain't that crazy. I don't have the time, money, energy for that. And if I go, is this an indication of how I'm living and my behavior, my belief, my faith? Because if I come to church all the time, I'm paying my tithes, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, nothing bad should happen to me, right? That's what people in the world think, man. The folk go to church, man, y'all supposed to be straight. It's not what it is. Do you guys have anyone in your family, in your community, in your world that has gone to therapy? Okay. Did they recommend therapy moving forward to any of you? Nobody raised their hand. Why is that, you think? I know somebody that went to therapy, but I don't talk about it. I'm afraid to share. Why do you think that is? You can for real answer. I'm judged. I'm embarrassed. People talk too much. Do people talk in the church? People talk in your family? People talk on the job? Do you talk? Okay. So part of these bits from our community, the reason why this is so important, I was telling Charles, the black church has represented for so long the voice of what happens in our community. And so if I'm struggling with something and the black church said, hey, if you don't fit into this box, it's a wrap on you. We don't deal with you. We're going to sit you down. We're going to ostracize you. And if I'm made to feel like I'm alone or I can't share my authentic self, who I'm going to talk to? And so now when I come to the altar, that's when I just pray for, I got a headache. Lord, take care of me. I need some finances. We make it easy. But we don't deal with the real. We don't deal with the source. You can go to the next slide. So how do we get there? We're going to confess it. The first thing I want you to know and understand, it's okay that you're not okay. It's okay that you're not okay. Allow yourself to not be okay sometimes. That means, and I'm going to get into this a little later, but I just want to give it to you right now. Sometimes you're going to wake up and you're going to feel 100%, oh my God, I feel amazing. I'm not sore. I can check every box A to Z. I'm 100%. Then sometimes I'm going to wake up and I'm like, oh my God, it's raining. I don't feel like going to work. It's Monday. I'm at 60%. Are you going to feel like doing A through Z that day? Probably not. And when you are not okay, that is the time to be very protective of your boundaries. And if you don't have any boundaries, folks going to bust your head to the white meat. It's okay that you're not okay. Radical acceptance is one of those things. It is what it is. Being able to accept the good, the bad, the ugly. This is actually a DBT skill. It's called radical acceptance. It is what it is, being able to accept the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good, the bad, the ugly. We are all of those things. Good, bad, and ugly. Sometimes On a good Saturday like this, you might get some good Tim. But let me cross the street to my car and somebody cut me off, you might see some bad Tim. Let them folks at my job not pay me and they gonna see some ugly Tim. You get what I'm saying? We are all of these things. The danger of always having to be strong, not realizing that you don't have to always be okay, is it produces a false sense of reality and it's unsustainable. Are you the go-to person in your family? Everybody calls you. You the one that went to school. You the one that has a good job. You help everybody. You're also the one that says, if I don't do it, it won't get done. That's unsustainable. You are putting pressure, undue, unrealized pressure on yourself that is unsustainable. Give yourself permission to not be okay as you extend grace, mercy, and kindness to yourself. How many of you guys extend grace to others? You extend kindness, mercy to others. You go hard for everybody else except you. That's terrible. That is terrible. You go hard for your kids. If your kids wake up, Mom, my throat hurt, my stomach hurt. You for real? Yeah, okay, stay home. How many of you go to work and you sick? How many of you, outside of the pandemic, you got COVID, you would say, hey, I don't use my sick days when I'm sick. I use my sick days when I want to go out of town. When I'm sick, I just go to work. It's okay not to be okay. They even wrote a book about it. Let me show you. I brought some books because I know we read the word. There's some other books out there too. It's literally called It's Okay That You're Not Okay. It's a great read, by the way, by Megan Devine. Vulnerability is not a weakness. It is okay to be vulnerable. I understand that we don't want to be vulnerable with everybody. It's not the wisest thing to do to be vulnerable with everyone. But if you don't have the opportunity or the space to ever be vulnerable, that is a lot of pressure to keep to yourself. That is a lot of undue stress that you're wearing when you feel like there's nobody in this world that I can talk to that understands me. You go to the next slide. So what should we do? I'm kind of moving because I want to get to some questions if we need to. Seek professional help. I gave you radical acceptance. There's another DBT skill called 100% responsibility. I may not be able to control what has happened to me, but I'm 100% in control of how I choose to respond to it. I can't control that I lost my wife. I can't control that we got a divorce, something happened with the kids, any of those things that life throws at you. I cannot control it, but I can control how I choose to respond. So if I am in need of, I've confessed it, hey, something's wrong, I've been crying for no reason for the last 2 weeks, I need to go talk to somebody. Who are you going to talk to? Here are a list of people that you can talk to. And I put these people up here for a reason. Psychiatrist, licensed therapist, your PCP, primary care physician, a psychiatric facility, IOP, PHP program. A psychiatrist generally is just one that prescribes you some medication. It's just like going to the ER. If I feel that your emotions are all over the place, I think Judge talked about someone that experienced bipolar. Your emotions are all over the place. You're manic, you're depressed. So a psychiatrist is going to hear you for about a couple of minutes and say, oh, okay, I'm going to prescribe you some medication. That's it. It's medication management. We're going to get you in and out. A licensed therapist is going to help teach you some skills to help get you through how do you deal when your emotions are all over the place. And if you don't know a psychiatrist or a therapist, your primary care doctor is one that could refer you to someone in a psychiatric facility. Like the judge said, there was a guy that called the police and said, hey, I need some help. Mobile crisis most times will send that person to a place like Lakeside. Most of us think that is the extreme. Well, I ain't going to no Lakeside. Who gonna see me? I'm not telling nobody my business. But think, you've done the awareness part. You've confessed it. I know there's something wrong. But now what are you gonna do about it? Until you look in the mirror and say, hey, I recognize, man, it's something in my eye, something in my nose. What would be the point of looking in the mirror, then turning around and doing nothing about it? Here's what we tend to do. You can go to the next slide. This is who we talk to. Family, friends, and if you are your biggest advisor, you got some real problems. Like, man, I don't tell nobody my business. I consult with me. For all you know, that's all you know. I don't care how brilliant you are. But most times, we'll consult with our friends, our family, and ourselves. Here's where I put the pastor in there. And I don't know how much of this Bishop does or used to do, but the pastor gets the phone call for everything. He's the counselor when you and your wife, your spouse are going through it. He counsels for grief. He has been the counselor when there has been molestation in the household. He has been the counselor when there has been rape in the household. He has been the counselor to go to when we had that uncle upstairs that nobody's supposed to go in their room. Pastor, what are we supposed to do about that? And we've gone to the pastor. But you know what I just said, for all you know, that's all you know. Sometimes the pastor gives the worst advice because he don't know. If something wrong with my car, I go out here and I get in I'm totally not a mechanic. Ching, 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 ching. I'm hot because I don't know what to do beyond. I got some gas, my battery going. That's it. Who should I call? My family? My friends? When I have lost my child and, my job, they'll give me a few days. Even the airlines will give you a 3-day, I forgot what they call the flights. Bereavement fare. They'll give you a bereavement fare. The job may give you a couple of weeks. Your friends are going to tell you, hey, we're here for you. We are here whenever you need us. What's the shelf life on that? Huh? Somebody said 24 hours. That's cold. Now your family and friends, they'll give you a few weeks, few months, and then what do they start to tell you? Hey, you got to come on out of that now. You've been around here crying all this time. You got to come on out. He wants you to live. They want you to get out. You've lost this significant other, your partner. We give horrible advice sometimes. The best way to get is to get underneath another. Y'all ever heard that phrase before? That's what folks will tell us. And in the church, remember, I go back to this. The church has said for a long time, has been the singular voice in the African American community. And so whatever we say here, it permeates throughout the black community, the barbershops. So if the church tell me just because of my lifestyle choice, you can't come in here. You can't do that in here. And when I feel that way and I have no community, that happens in the rest of the community because the church sets the tone. I lose my family because sometimes the husband or the wife will listen to what pastor says And that causes irreparable damage to the kids. And so the kids grow up seeing, nah, my mama don't do what my daddy say. My daddy don't talk. That's what we're looking for, the easy way out. And if it causes us to do some work, not really for that. You go to the next slide. Here's some of the work. My mindset tells me, because I have been in church all my life, that I should be humble, that I should be selfless. You give the shirt off your back. You don't know if you're entertaining a stranger. You give somebody your last $2. And if you're in crisis, my question to you is, why would you do that? What do they tell you on the airplane? In the event of crisis, what? Put your mask on first. Why do they tell you that? You cannot save anybody else until you are stable. The unfortunate part about this is many of us will set ourselves on fire to keep other people warm. So when in crisis, put your oxygen mask on first. You got to recognize there's something going on with me. I need to now establish some boundaries, some healthy boundaries. It's your responsibility to protect your boundaries. I'll make it simple. Any homeowners in here with a fence? Okay. Do you guys ever have any little kids come jump your fence? I used to do that all the time. My neighbor hated that. Stop jumping my fence. Okay. Whose job is it to protect your boundary? Self. It's your job to protect you. So listen, that means just because you are very talented and your gifts can be used, when they come to you after church and say, Sister so-and-so, blah, can we get you on this ministry? And you are at capacity, whose job is it to say no? Yours. When your kids want to do something else extra and you don't have it to do, the wherewithal, whose job is to protect your boundary? Yours. It doesn't make you a terrible parent. It doesn't make you selfish. It makes you self-focused. And until you become self-focused, again, people will bust your head to the white meat because you're teaching them that, hey, this is okay. It's okay for you guys to do this. Don't be governed by your feelings. Feelings beget feelings. I'll give you an example. If I run a red light and get a ticket, clearly my fault. However, I'm mad. Who am I mad at? You think I'm mad at me? No, I'm mad at the cop. I'm late, man. Don't you know I got to get to work? Initially, I'm upset. But then I also understand, like, man, dude, you got another point on your driving record? And so now I am experiencing some other emotions from that. Some guilt, like, dude, you done got yourself into another situation. Now you got to do this. Feelings beget feelings. If you are a person that is governed by your feelings, you'll make choices and respond to impulses just like that. Walmart loves people like that. That's why when you go on Walmart, what do they have in there? An 8-pound bag of potato chips for $4. Who was that for? People that can't control their feelings. People that can't control their impulses. You don't need an 8-pound bag of potato chips. Here's the work. Seeking to do your best rather than being perfect. And I know this is a big thing in church because we always are saying, hey, we give God a spirit of excellence. We are striving to be like him. He is perfect. God makes no mistakes, right? Last time I checked, none of y'all was God. And you gonna make some mistakes every day. So the agreement to do your best every day or to be perfect. Now keep in mind, I'm not telling you to go out here and do all types of foolery. I am saying, remember the example I gave? Sometimes you wake up at 100%. Sometimes you wake up, sometimes you're 25%, and you just can't go. Understand how to protect your boundaries, understand where you are, and your best is going to fluctuate from day to day. Because you're not a robot, you're not perfect. I want to get better. I don't get bothered that when I make a mistake and fall, that I got to stay here. I need to understand that, man, I tripped. Ugh. What do I need to do next time? I need to recognize there was something right here that made me trip, so I don't keep tripping. So I continuously get better, one, and I understand that my mistakes, my failures are not the end of the road. It's an opportunity for me to learn and get better. That make any sense? Okay, we go to the next slide. I think that's it. All right, so I wanted to kind of go through this really quickly for some Q&A, because I know I gave a lot. Are there any questions surrounding your beliefs as a church believer and what you can express with mental health?
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want a question about what Tim talked about, if you'll come to the mic so we'll know how many people we have. If you have any question that you feel free to ask, you can come to the mic and he'll answer your question. Okay?
Good morning.
First of all, I work for Grace House. We deal with mental and substance abuse.
Mm-hmm.
I see people, and I'm dealing with it personally with a child. I see people come in, some of them are mentally challenged, and we have to tweak their medicine. We may not get it right the first time, but the nurse keeps working with them. They come in really, really, really messed up. Some of them are so messed up that they'd rather go back to jail than to stay in there and get their treatment. My neighborhood is drug infested. And I feel like I need therapy to deal with what's going on around me. So, this is much needed. I work with people that come in from Lakeside, from Crestwind. I watch it every day, 5 days a week. Then I deal with it at home. So now, I see the effects on my neighborhood. I watch people walk around knowing that they got a mental problem. They're fighting the mental problem with drugs. They're getting in trouble because they won't face what they're going through, and there's nobody to support them. Yeah, I'm trying to understand when crisis team comes out to help a person. They're told that if they're not doing it in front of you, the police, the crisis intervention team, if they're not doing it in front of them, that they can't take them anywhere for help. I've watched this so many times. They've developed radar, which is a system that they assess the person, and then they let them go because they're not exhibiting any of those behaviors. If you are trying to help that person, and the people that come out to assist them say it's kidnapping, if they take them to get help, so what do you do?
I didn't quite hear your question again. I'm
Okay.
sorry. Say
The
that one time.
question is, the people that are supposed to help,
Mhm.
oftentimes, they make the situation worse.
Right.
Because they don't actually do anything that helps them,
Okay.
okay?
So I think your question is, what are you supposed to do when you make a phone call and the people that are supposed to help make the situation worse?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
So depending on who it is that you've called, that's kind of random, but depending on who it is that you've called, if it's the police, is that what you're talking about?
Crisis intervention.
Crisis intervention.
Or even, crisis intervention team, or radar.
So you would want to be, if that person is trained in this, there are certain ways that they're supposed to handle things. So when I worked at Lakeside, we couldn't put our hands on a person. If they swung at you, you have to do your very best to get out of the way, right?
Right.
And if you recognize that the people that you called are not doing these practices that you know they should do, that's something that you should definitely report. And that's not something that you should that's not a phone call to continue making. With addiction, understanding addiction, one of those things, an addict does things that they've normalized. And so because this dysfunction has been normalized, sometimes when I'm on a psychotic break or I'm in that state, I don't really know what I'm doing. And you have to have somebody that's trained in that to respond to that. Otherwise, somebody's going to get hurt.
So my question, Bishop was telling me to ask my question, is why the mental, like Commissioner Marie Williams, they're not, to me, doing the proper things that really, really help. They're up there in a position. So if I call somebody to help me with my child, and they don't do anything upstate, the laws, the state, you can't make a person get treatment over 21, right?
Okay.
So if they're exhibiting all these behaviors and you can't force them, they used to have a lunacy law where you could get a person to go get help. Now you can't. There's nothing you can do over 21. So what do you do?
So that sounds like some legal stuff that if the laws are already in, policies are in place that are not helping the situation, that's something that you may need to take up with an attorney, something like that.
So what we'll do is we'll follow that up. So we're going to have an opportunity for afterwards, and we can talk in detail. Come on.
Hello, good morning. I am substitute teaching. There are
God bless you.
students that come to you and you notice that they have a problem. As a substitute teacher, what should that response to that student be? Usually I will go tell administration, this person needs some assistance. But what should that substitute teacher say to the student at that point in time?
It depends on what it is. If the student is in danger, imminent danger, they're being beaten or anything like that, you are legally bound at that point once they release information to you to report that. If it's a situation where they are living on the streets, stuff like that, it just depends. Once they tell you, you are basically responsible to report. Should you not report that, then, if something happened to that kid.
So it's just reporting to administration, but not saying anything to the child, right?
No. You let the child know, hey, if I'll tell clients all the time, if you are exhibiting some behaviors where you're going to harm yourself or harm someone else, that's something I need to report. And so this child is telling you some things that something's going on with them. You need to let them know, hey, this is something I'll have to report. You may not want me to, but legally I am now on the hook to report this to DCS.
Okay.
And you get the administrators involved, but at that point, it's out of your hands. You got to go.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. One more question? All right.
Hey, this is a follow-up from the sheriff. It was something that he said that I was real concerned about. He and his partner had wrote together for so long. And he mentioned that the next day he came in and his partner had killed himself. They talked about everything he said, but he ran things back through his mind to see what did he miss. So I'm not putting you on the spot as being an expert or anything like that. You might have the answer, you might not. But we're here to kind of like get some awareness. Are there any significant signs that we can look for in a case like that we'll be able to recognize, so we might be able to speak on behalf, and we might be able to slow that down or stop that?
Okay. One, I'll tell you, if you're in a relationship with anybody and it's always sunny, it's always good, that's not real. We all have problems. If I don't feel like I can talk to you, no matter how close we are, that's one thing. But recognize that if every time we get together, the only thing, we just chop it up, we laugh, and I appear that everything is all good with me, something going on. And it's on you. If you're in relationship with me, it's, hey, man, you good? Notice, man, we ain't talked about blah, blah, blah. Introduce or interject some conversations if they never do it. But be the ear. Be a space where you can cultivate vulnerability if somebody feels that they can open up to you.
What do you do if someone you know need help? You've tried to get them help. They've been to counseling, but they don't want to go to counseling. They've given up on life, don't care about how they look, their hygiene, and just don't want to do anything. What do you do?
Sounds like that person is depressed. Wiggle my toes. Wiggle my toes. Can't do it. You heard the phrase, like, you can take the horse to the well, but you can't make the horse drink. I can want it for you. I can want to pour into you as much as I can, but until you're ready to receive the help, somebody will go to a therapist and they'll sit there and won't engage, and they'll be mute because they're not ready. So again, if you are one of the people in their lives that you can cultivate a space with, let them know, hey, whenever you're ready to talk, I'm here. Journal. Have them journal. If they don't talk to you, hey, man, you ever thought about journaling? Color how you feel. What colors are coming out? If you don't feel like you can talk to me, there's something that you can do to get it out. You don't want to keep it in.
Thank you.